Ah, look at the size of this one.
Look at the size of that. Well, how about this? How about some prune juice? I got water in mine. No, I got vodka. No, I have water.
My daughter's cleared out the orange juice.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, we're talking to Dr. Joseph Cardillo. Hi, doctor. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. I'm well.
I'm so excited to talk to you. You have really a lot of wisdom that you're going to share here. You have a book, but besides that, a ton of important, real good stuff. 12 rules of attention. That alone, that word, somehow in the Army, they say, attention? No, I think attention. What does that mean? I mean, does somebody actually spend some time actually listening to somebody? I don't know. Maybe that's too much to ask. All right. How to avoid screw-ups. You didn't write this about me, did you? What is this? All right. Free up your headspace. Oh my God. Yeah, well, I did that. I have no hair. And do more and be more at work. How are you today?
Pretty good.
Sunday, I don't usually ever do this, but your PR people said you would be available, and I'm trying to take a couple of days next week, and you're so kind. So tell us a little bit about, is that a piano behind you?
It is. It is. I've been thinking about it. My youngest daughter plays the piano.
Right.
And so I've been thinking about having her do a warm-up act.
Well, I think she ought to. Well, I'm all in. I did a piano concert last night live. And if she'd like to perform, maybe she can, at the end of this, you know how they have music at the end or music at the beginning of a show. If she's around, give her shot, or I'll interview her at another time if you'd like. For real.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you're doing. And the word Michael Strahan came up also. I think I saw that. I've interviewed Michael.
Yeah.
So tell us about, I'm talking too much.
Well, here I am 7 books into study and focus. Who would think?
You're focused on focusing.
Yeah, if we go back 50 years, we probably might not be having this conversation, but today, I think that many people are interested in the possibilities of mind-body studies and what we've come up with to try to better our lives. So my first book, which is titled Be Like Water, explored it purely from a psychological perspective, athletic perspective, and how we could transfer that kind of stuff into daily life. But as the books progressed, I got more interested in the actual science of attention. What is this thing that we call focus? What happens in our heads upstairs when we're attempting to focus, and what happens when we lose it? What happens when we lose our memory suddenly? And how can we regain our focus quickly? For those of us in this book, the 12 rules of attention, how can we regain it quickly in our daily lives, and particularly on our jobs, in our relationships, and so on?
I'm just going to start with one little comment that you just, as I was listening, I was focused. And that's because when I did a soap opera, Larry Auerbach, who started soap operas a long time ago, said, you better listen to the other actor, because the next thing you know, the wrong person will be sleeping with the other person. And because you didn't pay attention to what somebody had said, or even if they made a mistake. Attention is the key. And John Rich with All in the Family, I'm going way back, right? These guys were attention people. In acting, you have to listen, be a good listener. So you have something. But I think the one thing I'd like to say is, because you're such an educator, you said mind, body, and study. Okay, everybody's mind, body, and spirit. But even spirit, you need to study. You need to study to be a yogi. You need to study to do Pilates or whatever. You need to study to play football like Michael Strahan. He study/work. What is study?
Yeah. Well, study in terms of mind, body works to me, I mean, I suppose it means a lot of things to different people, but to me, it started out, actually, that's a great question. It started out for me, again, on how the mind can affect the body. And this is going back, 25, 30 years. How can the mind affect the body? And again, my book, Be Like Water, really approached that aspect of it, the psychology of how the mind can affect the body, and also the spirit. How can that affect the body? And then again, as the books progressed more into this, this mechanism that we have up here that we call attention, the more I got into that, and again, what is it? What does it do? How does it work, and so on? The more I got into that, I started to see that attention does bear an enormous influence on everything we do, even the way we dream. Even if we're meditating, our attention plays in, and even when we don't pay attention, we have to turn it off. So if that's what we want, let's say. But then my books kind of segued into the idea of how can the body affect the mind, because I've always said that from day one, that the body also can bear an influence on the mind. So for example, who hasn't had a bad day, a dull day or a bummer, and later on in the day, we just go out and take a walk, and that simple walk or a simple exercise changes not only us physically, but it changes us mentally. I remember a Robert Frost poem about the same thing. He wrote a poem called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and just walking through the woods, changes his mood. And so the body can affect the mind. It's a two-way street. So we don't want to have a mind that is operating on low energy, let's say, or operating depressed, etc. We don't want to have that mind bearing its influence on an otherwise perfectly healthy body, and the other way around. So in my studies, I use the mind to affect the body and balance it so that both are healthy, and use the body to affect the mind. So we've got two tremendous tools here. And at the bottom of it all, at the core of it, is where we're putting our attention, because wherever we put our attention is what's going to bear the effect that we're looking for. So if you're looking to, some of the things that people might not consider when they think about attention are things like, how much energy we feel throughout the day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and so on. Our moods, whether we feel organized or not, whether we're creative, our mental acuity, insight, things like memory, and just whether we feel like we're flowing through the day. These are controlled in a large part by our attention and where we're putting it. And sometimes we put our attention someplace, don't even realize it, and then it's having a physical effect on us as well as mental. So all that comes into play when I look at studies. And so that's kind of academic, but let me make it really simple. The first thing I tell people is pay attention to how you're paying attention, so that you can see where you're putting your focus. You can clearly see, I put my focus on that, and this is what it did. It pepped me up, made me feel good, or something else. And then the things that are happening that are great for us, we can repeat them. And the things that are happening that we either want to edit a little bit, make better, or get out of our lives entirely, our attention is going to help us do it, because our attention will allow us to switch that stuff off that's messing us up.
I love it. I love every word you say. I'm going to substantiate in what you're talking about with a little example. I worked on a series called The Brain for PBS, the first one, 1982.
Oh, that was a great series.
And we had a lot of Richard Resnick, we had a lot of neuroscientists, and so on and so forth. This is how we started the Brain series, or at least one episode. Maybe we even started the series, okay? We had a guy named Greg Louganis, famous diver, Olympian, okay? We put the camera on his feet as he climbed the high diving board, all right? And And then we went to the brain. Greg Louganis could not walk up the stairs. Michael Strahan could not tackle somebody or run with a ball if it wasn't the brain. But I think what you're talking about, that we have this physical here, but what I hear a little more from you that I find really interesting is then later on series came out called The Mind, okay? And so I'm kind of wondering, what is the mind as compared, and I don't want to also get too academic, because if there's only so much, it doesn't matter what it is. It is something is happening, and that's what I like about you. You're applicable. You're real. You're talking about me now, who maybe woke up with a questionable day as a result of some questionable business scenario or whatever. But it's snowing out there. Or I can go out and make a snowman, and that's the point that I like.
Absolutely.
So how do you? It's a brilliant thinking that you have here, where it's realization to make that change. So how to realize that I had that bad day, but I could go out there, like Robert Frost said, and jump in the snow and make an angel. Mm-hmm. How do you put the reins
in? Well, in my book, The 12 Rules of Attention, I go through 12 different areas where we can put the reins in. I include some science because I might be peculiar, but science is fun to me. So I enjoy some of the backstory as to what's happening that makes this work, and also why I like attention, because you can get into that backstory for real. But it's really, I try to make, to use your expression, putting the reins in, something we can all do right in our own homes. And so it's really pretty simple. Who hasn't, gone to the office and they're in kind of a worked up mood because of the traffic you had to go through, et cetera. But, real simple thing is to just have and I recommend this at all my presentations. I say, get a loved one. The more you love them, the better. Okay. Get a loved one to pose for the silliest picture you can imagine. Just have them do the silliest thing imaginable and take that and put it on your phone. Okay. And so when you're entering your office and, you're all worked up and you say, geez, I wish I could just, kind of balance out a little bit so that I could focus on what I need to do once I open that door. Before you even open the door, if you just look at that photo, it'll switch your mentality, just like that Robert Frost poem. And when my kids were young, I used to practice this myself. They used to have all these, young children have these funny stickers that they like to put on everything, including hardwood floors. But I'd have them put them all over.
Kids. All right, go on.
I'd have them put them all over my wallet. I'd have them put it on my key to my office. So when I put the key into my office, the first thing that I see is the sticker that, one of my daughters had put there, and it would immediately change the way I feel.
Beautiful, beautiful. Whatever. That's a great suggestion. Thank you for sharing that with everyone. Some other thoughts. You got 12 of them. People like these number kinds of things, and I think numbers are helpful because, if they can remember 6 of them, we'll probably have a better day. Another suggestion.
Well, one of the quickest things that can change your focus and the way you're feeling even is sound. Sound is one of the fastest ways that you can affect what's happening up here. And it's second only to scent, and it's pretty close. But one of the reasons that many of us who are looking at mind, body, and spirit interactions, one of the things that we like sound for is that sound tends to permeate the entire brain, so it goes everywhere. So for example, this is one of the reasons why we talk about loss of memory, but this is one of the reasons why you could take someone who has Alzheimer's, for example, and they might have forgotten your name, or they might look at a window and forget the name for window. But if you put on, an old Beatles song, for example, they'll know all the words. And so sound permeates everything, including the language centers, which I was referring to there. So we like sound. When I talk about balance, what I'm thinking about is an energetic state of mind. So balance changes as we do different things. So for example, just imagine a task, any task at all. For that task, you need a certain amount of energy to just do it. And then you need a certain amount of energy to just do it well and at your best. There's kind of a threshold. If you go below that threshold, you won't perform the task very well because you haven't got enough energy to do it. And so you'll experience mental fatigue, physical fatigue, and et cetera, loss of memory, and so on. But if you go too far, if you're too pepped up, you won't perform well either. We're jumpy. We're like water on a griddle, and we can't really get that thought, that action that we're looking for smoothly. So when I think of balance, I think of being in that space that's between calm and alert. So we need enough calmness to be able to perform. If we were any calmer, we wouldn't perform well. And we need enough alertness to keep us sharp. So you got to be in that middle space, and there's nothing that I can think of that's better than music and sound. Natural sound will do it too. Nothing better than music or natural sound that can put you right in that sweet spot, right between calm and alert. So we all know ways that we can do this with music. We have a sense of, this song will bring me up. So jot those down. This song will calm me down. And you can put them on your phone, and you can arrange them so that you have them when you need them. So when you're about to perform a task, you haven't got enough energy, enough mental acuity, then you use your up file. If you want to, if you've got too much energy, then you bring yourself down. And there's some easy ways to do that with rhythms and things like that. And there's some pretty scientific ways to do that too, with beats per minute. And it's so easy. I write about it in my books, and it's something that you can have a lot of fun doing. Like, for example, you could look up John Lennon's song Imagine and find out that it's running approximately, depending on what version you hear, about 78 beats per minute. So that'll slow you down. Anything under 100 starts to slow you down. And you could go down to 50 beats a minute, even lower. Anything over 100, so dance music's around 130 beats per minute. Anything over 100 starts to speed you up and bring you up. So you can look this up on the internet. For example, remember that song, I think it's by the Stray Cats, Rock This Town? That song's coming in at about 204 beats per minute. So that's really fast compared to 78. So you could create a playlist, for example, that will arc you all the way up, go from 70, 80, 90, 100, all the way up. And then there's a lot of tricks that you can do to mix them up to give it even more effect. In the mind-body business, this doesn't work like a pharmaceutical that you take the pill, it works instantly. You kind of have to practice it. And the more you practice it, the better it works. After about 3 weeks, it can be long lasting. So it's not immediate. You have to have some patience. But in about 3 weeks, you'll start to get more of an effect.
This dude is a naturalist. He's a nurturist. He's fantastic. I'm crazy about you. I love it. And I'm a musician. So I a billion trillion % agree with what you're saying. And it's such a simple remedy. It doesn't come in a bottle, and you're not popping it. You're just utilizing what we've
Absolutely.
already been given. I got a 2-cent quick silly story. When I came into Manhattan, this silly, crazy, noisy scenario, those are words that are questionable. from Tarrytown, this little country and I'm not even a country bumpkin from Tarrytown, you know, I got in a taxi, which I was probably afraid of, and the horns are honking and honking and honking. And I said, "Oh my God, how does somebody live with this?" To the cab guy, and you know what he says to me? It's my orchestra. It's his orchestra. So he put his mind into utilizing the sound, because everything is sound. Talking is sound,
Absolutely.
right? And made it a win for this man who's going to drive 8-10 hours a day, and take that opportunity, as opposed to that terrible scenario, possibly, depending on how you look at it, and utilize it. So how do you take it? Do we have another approach here? These are very, very powerful. This music concept is very powerful. The sticker concepts are very, and a picture of somebody. These are real simple wins.
Yeah, they are. And the reason that they work is because they're changing the electrical and chemical activity of your brain. And so these are methods that we found out affect you in a biological way. So it's not just like I'm imagining something, you know,
Right.
it's actually doing that. So that's the beauty of it. You know, one of the best things that people can do if they want to increase their focus is to increase their sense of awareness, which is a slightly different mechanism and associated with attention. So, for example, if my children were home and they were upstairs working, you know, on their computers, as many of them are these days, I wouldn't have to be paying attention to the fact that they're up there on their computer, you know, what they're typing and so on. I would be aware that they're up there and they're on their computer. It's kind of in the back of my mind, but I'm aware of it. So it's not up front. I don't have a spotlight on it, but I'm aware of it. That mechanism can be quite, I'm going to actually use the word magical. It's not magic, but
I like magic.
Almost. It's pretty close. It's a wonderful mechanism to make yourself aware of something before it happens, before you need it, beforehand. So, you know, we call this a sense of pre-awareness. And so why would we want to do that? You know, I'm thinking about, you know, I live out in the Berkshires. And so
lucky you.
Yeah, you should see how much snow's out this window.
Okay. Jiminy Peak, are you near it?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And it's four.
It's beautiful. It's lovely.
It's magnificent up there.
So we have a lot of hairpin turns that go down the mountain roads. And generally, if it's a really bad hairpin turn, you'll start to get signs quite a few miles in advance. And you'll get the signs repeatedly. And those signs are making you aware. They're giving you a pre-sense of what's to come. And you can see the intensity of the turn by the sign. So you see that this is a really intense hairpin turn coming up. You're aware of it. Now, motor vehicles doing a great job by having several signs like that on your way up to the turn, because that sense of pre-awareness, what it does, I call it attentional glue. Now, there's no such term. I call it attentional glue. It kind of makes your focus sticky, and in some cases you want that. So for example, as you're approaching that turn, when you get up to the hairpin turn, when you actually get there, what that pre-awareness does to your attention, technically, is it makes you catch the details that are signaling you that you are now right there in the hairpin turn. You're about to enter that hairpin turn. So you're more likely to not lose sight of this and go flying through it. So it makes you notice the details, but it does one other thing. It makes you stick to the detail longer. And it sounds like a little difference because it only happens in a millisecond. But number one, you could miss the detail entirely and just be somewhere else. And the next thing you know, you're in trouble on a hairpin turn. But the other thing that it does, it makes you stick to that detail where otherwise you might have gone on to the next detail and missed it. So it makes you stick to it and keep you there longer. So you're likely to do what you need to do. Now, in a real life situation, and this comes out of athletics big time. In a real life situation, let's say that I'm learning a new I'm learning. Let's say I practice martial arts, and I'm looking for a way to I'm looking for a new way to do a block in martial arts, and I learn it, and it's somewhat different than what I'm used to doing. If I practice that in my mind and make myself pre-aware of the exact movement that I need to engage, then when that situation comes up in real life, not only am I likely to see the detail that'll say, now's when you do it, but I'll also stick to it longer and be able to perform it better. So the pre-awareness is giving you that stickiness. When you visualize it in advance, it's literally creating the circuits upstairs that trigger the rest of the body and mind to behave the way you want it to at that moment. And this is kind of like magic to me, because if you're trying to change a behavior, and I mean, I don't know anybody who isn't trying to change something. If you're trying to change a behavior, if you use pre-awareness to make yourself aware of the behavior that you're trying to change, if you create a little mental movie in your head, I call it visualization, and you visualize yourself in that situation that you're trying to change, behaving the way you want to behave, like the martial artist doing the block, then when that situation arises in real life, you're likely to do it just like you've been visualizing it, with that same kind of accuracy, because you've literally created the circuitry to do that. The more you do it, the more you weaken the old circuitry, and then the old behavior that you don't like goes away, and the new behavior takes precedent.
So a question, and you're saving lives by what you're saying. I wonder, is there sometimes, and some people are sometimes they're afraid of certain aspects of life. They don't have this security of maybe some of their convictions and the way that they move life forwards. If they know that there's a problem, if they don't know about it, they go through their life and they go through their life, right?
Exactly.
Right? I want to ask a question about those that potentially, everything is potentially a problem. Walking down the stairs, you can fall down, right? So it's almost like raising a child, I guess, to a certain degree. How, like, I only had a daughter, but if I had a son, I probably would, I'd be lying on the ground because they'd be jumping off at things. And not that a daughter doesn't, but I don't know. I think I would have had a heart attack at maybe 20 of them. So the question that I wonder is, just a little. Everything you're saying is wonderful, and it's great, and it's great that someone has saved your, potentially, I think, still saved your life by putting signage on a country road to know that there's a hairpin turn. But sometimes if you think some people, that puts a little bit more stress on them by knowing that there could be a problem. And I don't know if I'm saying it exactly how I mean, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's media-minded commentary. You see so many people say that skid off of I'll even use a high bridge. Somebody, not so many, you don't see so many, you don't see airplanes. You don't see 10,000 airplanes that landed safely. The only airplane we see is the airplane that skidded off the runway, okay? So the question that I'm asking you is, I guess, fear-ish. Do I go in an airplane? I know there's 10,000 planes, and that is one of the safest places, safer than driving even, they say, okay? I'm just trying to say, how do we resist those? Because a lot of media love to emphasize the negativity. We're here for the good news. So
Yeah.
I'm here about the 9,999 planes of wonderful, got them there and they're partying. The one plane, which is an important story, I'm not knocking it, okay? And I've been to the S&P, I've been there. And that's an obligation and a piece of media. Do you know what I'm saying? Or does it make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and it's a fantastic question, really. 96% of what we do all day long, about 96% is automatic. You know, and so my friends say, well, are you telling me that we're all robots? And the answer is, well, yes. But no, no, we don't want to be robots all the time. That's right. You know, at night, you know, just think about it. I mean, you know, everything we do, you know, I poured myself a glass of water. I didn't have to sit there and think about what I needed to do. I just did it, you know, and you know, when you drive the car, when you drive your car and et cetera, if you had to relearn everything that you know, you wouldn't have time to do anything. So, you know, nature has endowed us with this mechanism that most people call autopilot. You know, and we experience it. I mean, and it's not a little thing. You know, I'm talking about, you know, glasses of water. Driving a car is not a little thing, but just thinking, you know, all of us who drive have experienced that. We've probably taken a trip at least at one point in our lives, and at the end realized, wow, I didn't pay attention to anything. How did I even get here? You know, I remember a time when I was in Syracuse, New York, and I was on the thruway, and I came all the way to Albany. I had the only memory I had was when I picked up you know, the receipt at the beginning and paid at the end. You know, I didn't pay any attention to land, and I said to myself, well, I'm glad I'm here. You know, and so we realize that, you know, we could be somewhere else, and yet, you know, we're paying attention. Nonetheless, we're still paying attention. Something's paying attention. So 96% of what we do throughout the day is automatized. And so are things like fear. That's automatized too. So are things like, you know, when we do something like, you know, we're speaking to somebody, we might not like what they're saying, and we have a certain body language that responds, and then that sets them off in a different way. We've all been there, you know. Certain things like, you know, when I was a kid, my mother used to say all the time. She used to say, "I wish I had $1 for every time, you know, I did that." You know, today it'd be 100. You know, I wish I had $100 for every time I did that. I'd be rich, she'd say, you know. But she was right in some sense. She was, we can't stop ourselves. You know, how many times have we said, "I'll never do that again"? And then there we are. You know, and I've mentioned over and over, myself too, you know, I've mentioned over and over again that unless we pay attention to how we're paying attention, you could forget stopping those incidents. They're just going to keep happening to you like a robot, because we're, you know, I hate to use a word, but we're programmed. And some of that programming we create for good reasons, like we learn how to swing a bat a certain way. We learn how to do a block a certain way. We learn how to answer the phone when we want to be polite in a certain way, and so on. But we also learn a lot of things that, you know, we wish we could forget about. And once those things get down here, you know, into some of these caverns upstairs, we forget they're there. We forget we learned that. And so we just act automatically. So we're in a bad mood, you might answer the phone that way, because that's that behavior has become automatic, which means it's unconscious, and we just keep doing it. So if we want to change anything about the way we feel emotionally, the energy that we have throughout the day, our actions, our body language, all, if we want to change anything at all, you've got to trace the footprints of your attention and figure out what's lighting up upstairs that's leading to that behavior and change that.
You are our New Year's Eve, New Year's Day special,
Oh,
because you are saying what we need to know. And so, because this is the time that a lot of people say, well, I'm going to change this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. However, to have a little more knowledge like you're sharing with us, everything that you said, and I appreciate what you're saying,
thank you.
will make it much easier, audience and me, to do it. So whether it's that sticker or that picture, or whether it's thinking about that scenario of car or whatever it might be, you know, I think it's back to that mind-body study, okay? Because you're a study. Your book is and your work and your thinking and you personally and sharing, which is what you do. And I'd love to interview you again. Is the study. It takes a little work to make a little sense, especially because I think they say something like, by the time you're 7 years old, you've learned maybe 90% of everything you're going to ever learn. So what happens to my rest of my X amount of years? Can I get anything into that brain if I got 90% already by the time I'm 7? And unfortunately, that might even be a real serious, I don't know how they ever come up with these kinds of things. But the fact is if that's even semi-true, then what am I? I'm working with 10% for the next 70, 80 years. So to get something in there. But you got some good things to get in there because they're actionable. And so this is a great book. I could see where you've helped a lot of people in this process. I'm going to ask you one last question. Actually, I ask a lot of people, what does peace mean to them? I'm going to ask you too. I either ask them peace, love, or hope. We do the World Peace Day concerts here in Times Square, Central Park, and we've been doing it a long time. And I ask a lot of people, what does peace mean to them? So we're here with Dr. Cardillo. And Dr. Cardillo, for you, and now we're at the end of 2020. Go away 2020, please. What does peace mean for you?
Well, peace to me is a coordination of this deep person that we all are on the inside, and coordinating that deep person that we are on the inside, knowing who that person is, spending some time with ourselves in that mindset, trying to discover more about who this person is on the inside as deeply as we can go, because that's who we are. And if you go deep enough, that you'll even get beyond that idea of person, that you'll get into this idea of maybe spirit, maybe what it was that we were before even, and coordinating that. It'll be a feeling at that point, and also an understanding, coordinating that feeling and understanding about and comfort with who we are, with what goes on the outside. And that is our daily environment and everything. And so you could see where attention really has everything to do with it, whether you go inside so deep that you wind up at you break some spiritual sound barrier, or that you bring it outside. You really need this attention mechanism to help you coordinate that. And will it be perfect? No. but that's the joy of life, I think, is trying to make it more in sync.
You're fantastic. I've interviewed thousands asking that question. You gave us something to actually chew on. They've gotten a lot of people's things to chew on, to think about, on the worldly way, even Miss America, where peace, love, and all those things, which are all also important. But without the study, without the, as you say, going a little deeper, looking into yourself to find where the peace is, more meditative, or people say happy with yourself. But you give some instructions to the manual. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you much.
I enjoyed this conversation a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.